Chapter 5. The Coin of Heaven. Does a firm persuasion that a thing is so make it so? And the prophet replied, all the poets believe that it does. And in ages of imagination this firm persuasion removed mountains. But many are not capable of a firm persuasion of anything. Blake, Marriage of Heaven and Hell. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. Romans 14:5. Persuasion is an inner effort of intense attention. To listen attentively as though you heard it is to evoke, to activate. By listening you can hear what you want to hear and persuade those beyond the range of the outer ear. Speak it inwardly in your imagination only. Make your inner conversation match your fulfilled desire. What you desire to hear without, you must hear within. Embrace the without within and become one who hears only that which implies the fulfillment of his desire, and all the external happenings in the world will become a bridge leading to the objective realization of your desire. Your inner speech is perpetually written all around you and happening. Learn to relate these happenings to your inner speech, and you will become self-taught. By inner speech is meant those mental conversations which you carry on with yourself. They may be inaudible when you are awake because of the noise and distraction of the outer world of becoming, but they are quite audible in deep meditation and dream. But whether they be audible or inaudible, you are their author and fashion your world in their likeness. There is a God in heaven, and heaven was within you, that revealeth secrets, and maketh them known to the king Nebuchadnezzar, what shall be in the latter days. The dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. Daniel 2:28. Inner speech from premises of fulfilled desire is a way to create an intelligible world for yourself. Observe your inner speech, for it is the cause of the future action. Inner speech reveals the state of consciousness from which you view the world. Make your inner speech match your fulfilled desires, for your inner speech is manifested all around you in happenings. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body. Behold, we put bits in the horse's mouth, that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great, and are driven by fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm. Whithersoever the governor listeth, even so the tongue is a little member, and boasteth great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindleth. James 3:2-5. The whole manifested world goes to show us what use we have made of the word, inner speech. An uncritical observation of our inner talking will reveal to us the ideas from which we view the world. Inner talking mirrors our imagination, and our imagination mirrors the state which it is fused. If the state with which we are fused is the cause of the phenomena of our life, then we are relieved of the burden of wondering what to do, for we have no alternative but to identify ourselves with our aim, and inasmuch as the state with which we are identified mirrors itself in our inner speech, then to change the state with which we are fused, we must first change our inner talking. It is our inner conversation which makes tomorrow's facts. Put off the former conversation, the old man which is corrupt, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Put on the new man, which is created in righteousness. Ephesians 4:22-24. Our minds, like our stomachs, are whetted by change of food. Quintilian. Stop all of the old mechanical negative inner talking and start a new positive and constructive inner speech from premises of fulfilled desire. Inner talking is the beginning, the sowing of the seeds of future action. To determine the action you must consciously initiate and control your inner talking. Construct a sentence which implies the fulfillment of your aim, such as, I have a large, steady, dependable income, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. Or I am happily married. I am wanted. I am contributing to the good of the world. And repeat such a sentence over and over until you are inwardly affected by it. Our inner speech represents in various ways the world we live in. In the beginning was the Word. John 1:1. That which ye sow ye reap, see yonder fields. The sesamum was sesamum, the corn was corn. The silence in the darkness knew, so is a man's fate born. The Light of Asia, Edwin Arnold. Ends run true to origins. Those that go searching for love only make manifest their own loveliness. And the loveless never find love, only the loving find love, and they have never have to seek for it. D.H. Lawrence. Man attracts what he is. The art of life is to sustain the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and let things come to you, not to go after them or think they fly away. Observe your inner talking and remember your aim. Do they match? Does your inner talking match what you would say audibly had you achieved your goal? The individual's inner speech and action attract the conditions of his life. Through uncritical self-observation of your inner talking, you find where you are in the inner world, and where you are in the inner world is what you are in the outer world. You put on the new man whenever ideals and inner speech match. In this way alone can the new man be born. Inner talking matures in the dark. From the dark it issues into the light. The right inner speech is a speech that would be yours were you to realize your ideal. In other words, it is the speech of fulfilled desires. I am that. Exodus 3:14. There are two gifts which God has bestowed upon man alone, and on no other mortal creature. These two are mind and speech, and the gift of mind and speech is equivalent to that of immortality. If a man uses these two gifts rightly, he will differ in nothing from the immortals. And when he quits the body, mind and speech will be his guide, and by them he will be brought into the troops of the gods, and the souls that have attained to bliss. Hermetica, Walter Scott's translation. The circumstances and conditions of life are outpictured inner talking, solidified sound. Inner speech calls events into existence. In every event is the creative sound that its life and being. All that a man believes and consents to as true reveals itself in his inner speech. It is his word, his life. Try to notice when you are saying in yourself at this moment to what thoughts and feelings you are consenting. They will be perfectly woven into your tapestry of life. To change your life, you must change your inner talking, for life, said Hermes, is the union of word and mind. When imagination matches your inner speech to fulfill desire, then there will be a straight path in yourself from within out, and the without will instantly reflect the within for you, and you will know reality is only actualized inner talking. Receive with meekness the inborn word, which is able to save your soul. James 1:21. Every stage of man's progress is made by the conscious exercise of imagination, matching his inner speech to his fulfilled desire. Because man does not perfectly match them, the results are uncertain, while they might be perfectly certain. Persistent assumption of the wish fulfilled is the means of fulfilling the intention. As we control our inner talking, matching it to our fulfilled desires, we can lay aside all other processes. Then we simply act by clear imagination and intention. We imagine the wish fulfilled and carry on mental conversations from that premise. Through controlled inner talking from premise of fulfilled desires, seeming miracles are performed. The future becomes the present and reveals itself in our inner speech. To be held by the inner speech of fulfilled desires is to be safely anchored into life. Our lives may seem to be broken by events, but they are never broken so long as we retain the inner speech of fulfilled desire. All happiness depends on the active voluntary use of imagination to construct and inwardly affirm that we are what we want to be. We match ourselves to our ideals by constantly remembering our aim and identifying ourselves with it. We fuse with our aims by frequently occupying the feeling of our wish fulfilled. It is the frequency, the habitual occupancy, that is the secret of success. The oftener we do it, the more natural it is. Fancy assembles. Continuous imagination fuses. It is possible to resolve every situation by the proper use of imagination. Our task is to get the right sentence, the one which implies that our desire is realized, and fire the imagination with it. All this is intimately connected with the mystery of the still, small voice. Inner talking reveals the activities of imagination, activities which are the cause of the circumstances of life. As a rule, man is totally unaware of his inner talking, and therefore sees himself not as the cause, but the victim of circumstance. To consciously create circumstance, man must consciously direct his inner speech, matching the still small voice to his fulfilled desires. He calls things not seen as though they were. Romans 4:17. Right inner speech is essential. It is the greatest of the arts. It is the way out of limitations into freedom. Ignorance of this art has made the world a battlefield and penitentiary where blood and sweat alone are expected, when it should be a place of marveling and wondering. Right inner talking is the first step to becoming what you want to be. Speech is an image of mind, and mind is an image of God. Hermetica, Scott translation. On the morning of April 12, 1953, my wife was awakened by the sound of a great voice of authority speaking within her and saying, "You must stop spending your thoughts, time, and money. Everything in life must be an investment. To spend is to waste, to squander, to lay out with return. To invest is to lay out for a purpose from which a profit is expected. This revelation of my wife is about the importance of the moment. It is about the transformation of the moment. What we desire does not lie in the future, but in ourselves at this very moment. At any moment in our lives, we are faced with an infinite choice: what we are and what we want to be. And what we want to be is already existent, but to realize that we must match our inner speech and actions to it. If two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. Matthew 8:19. It is only what is done now that counts. The present moment does not recede into the past. It advances into the future to confront us, spend or invested. Thought is the coin of heaven. Money is its earthly symbol. Every moment must be invested, and our inner talking reveals whether we are now spending or investing. Be more interested in what you are inwardly saying now than what you have said, by choosing wisely what you think and what you feel now. Any time we feel misunderstood, misused, neglected, suspicious, afraid, we are spending our thoughts and wasting our time. Whenever we assume the feeling of being what we want to be, we are investing. We cannot abandon the moment to negative inner talking and expect to retain command of life. Before us go the results of all that seemingly is behind. Not gone is the last moment, but oncoming. My word shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I send it. Isaiah 55:11. The circumstances of life are the muffled utterances of the inner talking that made them, the Word made visible. The Word, said Hermes, is Son, and the mind is Father of the Word. They are not separate one from another, for life is the union of word and mind. He willed us forth from himself by the word of truth. James 1:18. Let us be imitators of God as dear children. Ephesians 5:1. And use our inner speech wisely to mold an outer world in harmony with our ideal. The Lord spake by me, and his word was in my tongue. 2 Samuel 23:2. The mouth of God is the mind of men. Feed God only the best. Whatsoever things are of good report, think on these things. The present moment is always precisely right for an investment, and inwardly speak the right word. The word is very near to you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it. See, I have set before you this day life and good, death and evil, blessing and cursing. Choose life. Deuteronomy 30:14, 15, and 19. You choose life and good and blessings by being that which you choose. Like is known to like alone. Make your inner speech bless and give good reports. Man's ignorance of the future is the result of his ignorance of his inner talking. His inner talking mirrors his imagination, and his imagination is a government in which the opposition never comes into power. If the reader asks, what if the inner speech remains subjective and is unable to find an object for its love? The answer is, it will not remain subjective, for the very simple reason that inner speech is always objectifying itself. What frustrates and festers and becomes a disease that afflicts humanity is man's ignorance of the art of matching inner words to fulfill desires. Inner speech mirrors imagination, and imagination is Christ. Alter your inner speech, and your perceptible world changes. Whenever inner speech and desire are in conflict, inner speech invariably wins. Because inner speech objectifies itself, it is easy to see that it matches desire. Desire will be objectively realized. Were this not so, I would say with Blake, sooner murder an infant in its cradle than nurse unacted desires. But I know from experience, the tongue setteth on fire the course of nature. James 3:6. End of chapter. Chapter 6. It is within. Rivers, mountains, cities, villages, all are human, and when you enter under their bosoms you walk in heaven and earth, as in your own. Bosom you bear your heaven, and earth and all you behold, though it appears without, it is within. In your imagination, of which this world of mortality is but a shadow. Blake, Jerusalem. The inner world was as real to Blake as the outer land of the waking life. He looked upon his dream and visions as the realities of the forms of nature. Blake reduced everything to the bedrock of his own consciousness. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Luke 17:21. The real man, the imaginative man, has invested the outer world with all of its properties. The apparent reality of the outer world, which is so hard to dissolve, is only proof of the absolute reality of the inner world of his own imagination. No one can come to me except the Father which has sent me draw him. I and my Father are one. John 6:44, 10:30. The world which is described from observation is a manifestation of the mental activity of the observer. When man discovers that his world is his own mental activity made visible, that no man can come unto him except he draws them, and that there is no one to change but himself, his own imaginative self, his first impulse is to reshape the world in the image of his ideal. But his ideal is not so easily incarnated. In that moment when he ceases to conform to external discipline, he must impose upon himself a far more rigorous discipline, the self-discipline upon which the realization of his ideal depends. Imagination is not entirely untrampled and free to move at will, without any rules of constraint. In fact, the contrary is true. Imagination travels according to habit. Imagination has choice, but it chooses according to habit. Awake or asleep, man's imagination is constrained to follow certain definite patterns. It is this benumbing influence of habit that man must change. If he does not, his dreams will fade under the paralysis of custom. Imagination, which is Christ in man, is not subject to the necessity to produce only that which is perfect and good. It exercises its absolute freedom from necessity by endowing the outer physical self with free will to choose, to follow good or evil, order or disorder. Choose this day whom you will serve. Joshua 24:15. But after the choice is made and accepted, so that it forms the individual's habitual consciousness, then imagination manifests its infinite power and wisdom by molding the outer sensuous world of becoming in the image of the habitual inner speech and actions of the individual. To realize his ideal, man must first change the pattern which his imagination has followed. Habitual thought is indicative of character. The way to change the outer world is to make the inner speech and action match the outer speech and actions of fulfilled desires. Our ideals are waiting to be incarnated, but unless we ourselves match our inner speech and action to the speech and action of fulfilled desires, they are incapable of birth. Inner speech and action are the channels of God's action. He cannot respond to our prayer unless these paths are offered. The outer behavior of man is mechanical. It is subject to the compulsion applied to it by the behavior of the inner self, and old habits of the inner self hang on till replaced by new ones. It is a peculiar property of the second or inner man that he gives to the outer self something similar to his own reality of being. Any change in the behavior of the inner self will result in corresponding outer changes. The mystic calls a change of consciousness death. By death he means not the destruction of imagination and the state with which it was fused, but the dissolution of their union. Fusion is union rather than oneness. Thus the conditions to which the union gave being vanish. I die daily, said Paul to the Corinthians. Blake said to his friend Crabb Robinson, there is nothing like death. Death is the best thing that can happen in life. But most people die so late and take such an unmerciful time in dying. God knows their neighbors never see them rise from the dead. To the outer man of senses who knows nothing of the inner man of being, this is sheer nonsense. But Blake made the above quite clear when he wrote in the year before he died. William Blake, one who is very much delighted with being in good company, born 28 November 1757 in London, and has died several times since. When man has a sense of Christ as his imagination, he sees why Christ must die and rise again from the dead to save man. why he must detach his imagination from his present state and match it to a higher concept of himself if he would rise above his present limitation and thereby save himself. Here is a lovely story of a mystical death, which was witnessed by a neighbor. "Last week," writes the one, "who rose from the dead, a friend offered me her home in the mountains for a Christmas holiday, as she thought she might go east. She said that she would let me know this week. We had a very pleasant conversation, and I mentioned you and your teaching in connection with a discussion of Dunn's experiment with time, which she had just been reading. Her letter arrived Monday. As I picked it up, I had a sudden sense of depression. However, when I read it, she said I could have the house and told me where to get the keys. Instead of being cheerful, I grew still more depressed. So much so I decided there must have been something between the lines, which I was getting intuitively. I unfolded the letter and read the first page through, and as I turned to the second page, I noticed she had written a postscript on the back of the first sheet. It consisted of an extremely blunt and heavy-handed description of an unlovely trait in my character, which I had struggled for years to overcome, and for the past 2 years I thought I had succeeded. Yet here it was again, described with clinical exactitude. I was stunned and desolated. I thought to myself, what is this letter trying to tell me? In the first place, she invited me to use her home, as I have been seeing myself in some lovely home during the holidays. In the second place, nothing comes to me except I draw it. And thirdly, I have been hearing nothing but good news. So the obvious conclusion is that something in me corresponds to this letter, and no matter what it looks like, it is good news. I reread the letter, and as I did so, I asked, what is there here for me to see? And then I saw it. It started out. After our conversation of last week, I feel I can tell you. And the rest of the page was studded with verses and oases as currants in a seed cake. A great feeling of elation swept over me. It was all in the past. The thing I had labored so long to correct was done. I suddenly realized that my friend was a witness to my resurrection. I whirled around the studio, chanting, "It's all in the past. It is done. Thank you. It is done." I gathered all my gratitude up in a big ball of light and shot it straight to you, and I saw a flash of lightning. Monday evening, shortly after 6 your time, that was it. Now, instead of writing a polite letter, because it is a correct thing to do, I can write giving sincere thanks for her frankness and thanking her for the loan of the house. Thank you so much for your teaching, which has made my beloved imagination truly my Savior. And now if any man shall say unto her, Lo, here is Christ, or there, she will believe it not, for she knows that the kingdom of God is within her, and that she herself must assume full responsibility for the incarnation of her ideal, and that nothing but death and resurrection will bring her to it. She has found her Savior, her beloved imagination, forever expanding in the bosom of God. There is only one reality, and that is Christ. Human imagination, the inheritance and final achievement of the whole of humanity. That we, speaking the truth in love, may grow up into Him in all things, which is the head, even Christ. Ephesians 4:14 and 15. End of chapter.